Welcome back to another class. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, and today's class is using a data recovery device to help you recover data from a dying hard drive. Now, you've got to listen to what I'm saying. We're going to learn how to recover data from a dying hard drive, not a dead hard drive. So a dying hard drive means you plug it in and you hear the little motor whir up. You may hear click, 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 click. You hear stuff going on inside of the hard drive, but you can't get to the data. Or you can get to the data, but it sounds just so nasty and horrible, you're really worried that this hard drive is going to die soon. This is different, of course, than a dead hard drive. A dead hard drive is if you plug it in, the hard drive into a data recovery device or into an external hard drive enclosure or into a computer, it just doesn't do anything. You plug it in and it's just dead. Remember, if the hard drive is dead, it's got to go to an expensive data recovery shop, and your client or you're going to be paying $1,000 to $3,000 to get the thing fixed. Today's class is using a data recovery device for a dying hard drive. The next thing that I need to remind you is that data recovery is a multi-step process. So when you hear data recovery device, and when I heard of data recovery devices 3 years ago, I thought, hey, wow, I can go out and I can spend $1,000 or $5,000 or whatever and get one device. I can plug a hard drive into it and I can get all my clients' data back and I can charge them a lot of money. Well, the reality is there are a couple of those devices out there. I wouldn't worry about them. Most data recovery devices actually only get the bits and bytes off of a dying hard drive and put them onto a good hard drive. So what you use a data recovery device for is, like I say, you have this dying hard drive, this hard drive that just sounds like hell, and you're worried that if you do any scans or anything on it, that it's just going to be gone. So what you do is you take that dying hard drive, you plug that as a master hard drive into a data recovery device. You take a hard drive that you know is good, you plug that into the target side of the data recovery device, and then you basically press start, and what will happen is the hard drive, or the data recovery device, will rip off all the bits and bytes off of the dying hard drive and put it as quickly as possible onto the good hard drive. Now when it's on the good hard drive though, remember, I'm talking about bits and bytes. You now have the bits and bytes on a stable hard drive so that you can continue on the data recovery process. You may not necessarily have data on the target hard drive. So when I say data, I'm talking about something that's usable. JPEG pictures that you can use, documents that you can use, an operating system that you can use. Well, many times when you use a data recovery device, when you copy all of the bits and bytes over to that target hard drive, there are still corruptions in the file formats, and so you're still going to need data recovery software to be able to pull out the data from all those bits and bytes. So basically, a data recovery device takes the bits and bytes off of a dying hard drive and puts them onto a good hard drive so you can go on into the rest of the data recovery process. And that is what we are going to talk about today. So let's talk for a moment why you would need a data recovery device. Because you're saying, hey Eli, if it's a dying hard drive, it's not a dead hard drive. Why don't I just plug the hard drive into a little USB external hard drive enclosure, plug that into a computer, and pull the data off that way? Or just plug the hard drive in as a slave drive onto a normal computer and run a scan that way? Why would I want a hardware data recovery device? And the reason is because the hardware data recovery devices can do things that normal software, data recovery software, cannot do. What you may not realize is when you're using a Windows operating system, or when you are using most modern operating systems, when the operating system comes to a bad sector or a bad portion of the disk, it will retry to read that bad portion of the disk up to 10 times. So it's going along and you're trying to pull a document off and it comes to a bad sector. It will then try to reread that sector 10 times before it goes on to the next sector. Well, if you have a a large portion of your hard drive with problems. Imagine how long it can take if your Windows computer goes to a bad sector, even if it takes a millisecond. It tries that 10 times. Then it goes to the next bad sector, tries that 10 times. Goes to the next bad sector, tries that 10 times. It can take days to try to recover data off of a hard drive that way, because the Windows operating system it always retries to read bad sectors when it comes to them. So what the data recovery device can do is it can simply only try to read that bad sector once. So when you put a data recovery device onto normally quick mode, what it will do is when it goes through to copy all the bits and bytes from the dying hard drive to the good hard drive, instead of retrying the bad sectors, if it just hits a bad sector, it will just skip it, and it'll skip it, and it'll skip it, and skip it. So where if you're trying to copy the data off of a dying hard drive using a Windows computer, it may take, I don't know, literally 10, 20 hours. If you plug the hard drive into a data recovery device, simply dumping all of the bits and bytes onto the target hard drive, that may only take an hour or two, because remember, it's not trying to reread anything. If it comes to a problem, it just skips it and goes on. That's one of the benefits of using a data recovery device, using, let's say, the Windows operating system. Also, you can do nifty things like read the hard drive backwards. So if there are problems in the beginning of the disk, you can actually tell the data recovery device to look at the hard drive in reverse and copy the data in reverse. Or you can, if there's a problem in the middle, you can tell the data recovery device to try to copy all the data in the first bit until it comes to major problems, and then have it swing around and in reverse copy data off of the dying hard drive onto that target hard drive. These are things that you simply cannot do if you're using software. You just can't. When you go out to look to buy a data recovery device, I'm going to show you how to do this on a YEC Ninja that I purchased about 2 years ago for about $1,300. When you go out to buy your own device, just look for the reviews, do a lot of research, and find out what people are saying. Because these devices are expensive, and like everything, they upgrade and they get better over time. So this was what I thought was the best thing 2 years ago. I'm not sure what the best thing is today. You just need to do the research on your own to find out. There's a lot of different vendors out there. If you're looking for a basic data recovery device, it'll normally cost you between $1,000 to $5,000. Like I say, the YEC Ninja is about $1,300, and it goes from there. When you are looking to buy data recovery devices, you will see devices that are much more expensive, all the way up to $10,000. And before you decide that if it's the most expensive thing, that's the thing you need to buy, stop. Those devices that cost $10,000 do much more than data recovery, and that's why they cost so much. Basically, these devices that cost up to $10,000, they can actually go into hard drives and reprogram how big the hard drive thinks it is. So if you had a very expensive hard drive, and let's say the last sectors in the hard drive became bad, you can use these $10,000 pieces of equipment to go in, and if it's a terabyte hard drive, tell the hard drive that it's only 500 gigabytes, so that you essentially get rid of the bad parts on the hard drive. When you plug that hard drive into your computer, it will simply be registered as a 500 gig hard drive, and it'll work well for you. I understand why people bought these 4 or 5 years ago, maybe, when hard drives were really, really, really expensive. Now that hard drives, I can buy a terabyte hard drive on Newegg.com for $100, probably less. I'm not sure why I would spend $10,000 on one of those type of hard drive devices. So if all you're looking for is data recovery, you're generally looking between $1,000 to $3,000, maybe $5,000 in cost, and that's it. Now, you may be asking, Eli, if all we're doing is ripping bits and bytes from a dying hard drive to a good hard drive, what about Linux? I mean, aren't these kind of tools what Linux is all about? And yes, that's true. If you know how to use Linux, don't spend any money on a data recovery device. Use Linux. The problem is, if you have a shop of any size, if you're doing any amount of real work, be careful about being cheap, because, okay, you can build your own little data recovery computer, with Linux for 200 bucks. You probably have a computer laying around somewhere. But in order to make that work, you have to really understand Linux. You have to really understand the software that you're going to be using. And you have to make sure that any failures that are happening aren't just weird computer failures. You know, I mean, why I didn't have my employees use Linux very much for data recovery is because there was so much troubleshooting. I mean, is it that you can't pull the information off the hard drive because it's deader than you thought it was, or because there's some quirk in this particular Linux kernel, and suddenly you're paying your employees very good money to run around and troubleshoot this stupid little Linux computer that was free. With a data recovery device like the Ninja, as I'll show you, basically you just plug in the two hard drives, the dying hard drive and the good hard drive, you put in a few configurations, and you press start, and then it goes. So it's that easy. If you can't pull any data off, it means the hard drive's dead, you give it back to the client, you go on your way. If you can get bits and bytes and data off, then you can, but all you need to do is press a few buttons and hit go. You don't have to worry about troubleshooting Linux problems and updates and all the rest of that garbage. So now that we've talked about the introduction to this, you know, why you use data recovery devices. We talked a little bit about data recovery devices. If you decide to go out and buy one yourself, let's bring you over to this little bench, and I'll show you how the data recovery device works. So this right here is a data recovery device. This is a YEC Ninja. Now, as you can see, you have one little spot over here for the source hard drive. So this is your dying hard drive. And then you have a spot over here for the target hard drive, or the hard drive that is good. So you're going to be ripping off all the bits and bytes from the bad hard drive and dumping them onto the good hard drive, so you can take the good hard drive and then run your data recovery software. Now, almost all of these data recovery devices allow you to recover data from both IDE and SATA hard drives, both desktop and laptop. So as you can see, they give you connectors for SATA, they give you connectors for IDE, they even give you the little connector for IDE laptop. So you can plug in all the standard hard drives into one of these things. One of the cool parts with YEC is you can actually pull data from one type of hard drive and put it onto another. So think about if you have to do very, very complicated, time-consuming data recovery, you know, for corrupted files. You can pull data off of an IDE hard drive, which is what, like 100 megabits per second, maybe, and put it onto a SATA 6 hard drive, which is 6 gigabits per second. So, you know, if you need to do a lot of data recovery, you may just want to put all those bits and bytes onto a much faster hard drive just to make your life easier. So it's kind of hard on my neck. Let me go. I'm going to grab the hard drives, and we're going to actually put these in here. So as you can see, this is an IDE hard drive. So this is the hard drive that's dying. So I take this and I put this onto the target side and plug in the power. And then this is a SATA hard drive. I just plug this onto the other side, into the much nicer SATA connection. And then everything is connected up, that easy. Now I turn on the device. You may or may not be able to see that it's doing its little post test right now. Now, once the two hard drives are connected and the power is on, we can go to function. We can tell it what type of hard drives the system is looking at. So we have ATA to SATA, and we hit function, and so we've told it what types of hard drives are on there. And then we just go now and we decide what we want to do. So we're just going to do quick. Recovery. Yep, so DT recovery quick. And then all you do is you press the start button. It will warm up, and then it'll start pulling bits and bytes. So target master's on, the target's on. I don't know if you can hear that up on the microphone.
and now it's copying. And now it actually is showing you how many megabytes that it's transferred over so far. So you just sit back and wait, and then it'll beep at you when it's done. And then all of the data is off of the bad hard drive and onto the good hard drive. And it really is that simple. Do you really want to mess with Linux when this can be that simple? Let me get up to a normal position, and we'll talk a little more.
So that's all there is to data recovery devices. The main thing that you have to get through your head, that a lot of people don't get through your head, is when you're using a data recovery device, all you're doing is ripping off the bits and bytes onto a good hard drive so that you can go on to other steps in the data recovery process. So you rip off all the bits and bytes, and then you plug the good hard drive into a computer to run all of the scans. One nice thing that can happen is, although it only pulls off the bits and bytes, many times you get fully usable data. I mean, it was a godsend. So many times we'd have people bring computers. They're obviously having hard drive problems. We pull the information from the bad hard drive onto a good hard drive, and then we could actually plug that good hard drive right back into their computer, and everything worked like a charm. That was a really easy repair. Pull the hard drive out, copy the data, put the hard drive back in, and it's all good. Sometimes it works out this way. So when you're pulling the bits and bytes, sometimes you get the full data, nothing's really corrupted, and even the operating system and everything else works A-OK. Just realize that is not necessarily how it goes. A lot of times, with whatever happened to the hard drive, you have corrupted data on the hard drive. So you pull the bits and bytes off the bad hard drive onto the good hard drive, then you take that good hard drive, and then you start running data recovery scans using a different computer. Let's keep that in mind. When you go out to buy your data recovery device, again, it's normally going to cost you between $1,000 to $5,000. The more expensive ones, the $10,000 units, do a lot more than data recovery, and I just don't see the point. If you want to spend the money, fine, but when you buy a 1 terabyte hard drive for $100, I'm not going to spend $10,000 to be able to repair hard drives for reuse. The hard drive's bad, throw the thing away. Again, as we talked about before, you can say, well, what about Linux? Can't I get all this functionality for free? And again, you can. But remember, here at everymanit.com, we're trying to make you think about technology in a broader sense than simply what is possible. Yes, you can use Linux to recover the data, fine. But how long is it going to take you? Or how long is it going to take one of your employees? If you have to train an employee, or if you have to train yourself on Linux, and then you have to troubleshoot Linux problems, because sometimes if it's a Linux computer, maybe it's not the hard drive. Maybe you just used the wrong piece of software, or your kernel wasn't up to date, or God knows what. But by using something like Linux, you really open yourself up to what I call the rabbit hole of hell, where you can't just focus on one problem. Instead of just saying that the hard drive is good or bad, you may say, well, maybe the kernel in the computer is bad, and you start fixing things. It's just bad. If you have employees, you really see this. Data recovery just sucks you in, or sucks employees in, because I guess they don't really know how they're getting paid. And I've seen this. I've seen, a $200 data recovery, and I'll have like 3 guys all clustered around this stupid little hard drive thinking, well, if that scan didn't work, maybe this scan will work, or maybe this, or maybe this, maybe this. What I like about having a data recovery device is you plug it in, you flip it through a few switches, and you hit go. If it fails, you unplug the bad hard drive, you call the client, and you say, I'm sorry, your hard drive is completely dead, we can't get any information, please come and pick it up. Again, where if you're using Linux or all this other stuff, people might think, oh, well, maybe I'll do another scan, or maybe I'll do another scan. And suddenly that very profitable $200 data recovery costs you $300 because everybody's all clustered around trying to figure it out. So that's why I like data recovery devices, is you just push a button and you go. If you're thinking about offering this type of data recovery service and you're looking at the price and you're saying, well, Linux is free, but then, okay, it's $1,000 to $5,000 for one of these devices. Is it worth it? Like I say, when I was running the repair shop, we were very affordable for data recovery. You could charge much more than we did. For things like deleted files or for bad hard drives that we pulled out of computers and recovered the data, we charge $100. Anytime a hard drive touched this device, we immediately charged at least $200. So, we were a pretty busy shop, so it was 13 data recoveries basically to recover the cost of this device. Plus we got all the functionality of the devices. So I think it's worth it. And like I said, you can charge at least $200 if you have one of these devices. Depending on your customers, your clients, and how good you are of a salesman, you could probably charge all the way up to about $400. That's all. Yeah. So that's all there is to data recovery devices. Again, I am Eli the Computer Guy, and this class was using a data recovery device in data recovery. I look forward to seeing you in the next class.